So we're talking about geography and history, and the first chapter in the textbook, and this is my PowerPoint review for that material. So people have been around for about 2 million years, and basically the geography of land has greatly influenced people's lives. We're going to talk about the 5 themes of geography here. We've got the first one I'd like to go with is this one here, which is called location, relative and absolute. Relative means what is near. Absolute means longitude, latitude, addresses, things like that. There's only one place on Earth like it. Then we have down here we have physical characteristics, human characteristics. Is there a forest? Is the land flat? What's the weather like? All those sort of things there. Is there a city there? Do people live there? All those things. So then we move on up here to human environmental interaction. Do the people who live there have an impact on the actual environment, and does it have an impact on them also? You build a dam in a river, that affects the environment, and that sort of thing there. Then we move down to movement and the idea of things like immigration of people and movements of goods and services, and even ideas. That's had a major effect. Then regions is just something that geographers like to look at because it's a way of classifying regions. So it could be something like a governmental region like the state of Illinois, or the Great Lakes region as the region around the Great Lakes, or a climate region. All those are examples of that. So the geography is the study of the earth and the ways people live and work on it. Location, as I said, absolute location. This is the location or the former location of Royce Moore School. Now he lives somewhere else. So relative location, where things are next to. Place, like I said, physical characteristics, including land, elevation, climate. Human environmental interaction, this is an example of, something called top mining, hilltop mining, where basically they're going ahead and they're cutting off the tops of mountains and getting at the coal and minerals underneath. That's having an impact on the environment. You can see that pretty clearly. Movement of people and this immigration pattern movement map there. Then regions. This here is a regional map, and if you look here, the blue people are the people who call carbonated beverages pop. The red people are the ones that call, no matter what it is, they call it Coke. The ones up here, the brownish ones and yellowish ones, are the ones that call it soda. There's some other ones as well. So land, water, and climates, lots of differences. 4 main landforms are mountains, hills, plateaus, and plains. Elevation, height above sea level. Relief is the changes in height, and that's just kind of depends. Those have an impact as to where people can live. Hills, medium to lower, moderate relief. Plains, low and low relief. Plateaus, medium height and low relief. They go down relatively slowly. And mountains have highest elevation and high relief as well. It's just a map of something as an idea of the different landforms that are around. Surface changes from inside the Earth. Now, the Earth is molten. A lot of it is molten inside, and basically that causes stuff to bubble up in the form of lava and other things as well. So what we're talking about here is this is the structure of the Earth, made of the following parts. We've got the core right here, molten solid rock primarily. Then there's also has an inner core that's has some liquidy properties, and the outer core, and then we have the mantle, and that is mostly hot and solid. The outer part is kind of liquidy though, because there's a lot of pressure that forces it together. Crust is the thin layer of rock floating on the mantle that we all live on. Crust is made up of different tectonic plates that move separately. This here is a picture of the different plates and how they've moved over time. This is hundreds of millions of years ago, and then moving on, here we have during the Jurassic period, Cretaceous period, and then we have today as well. Movement of the plates leads to volcanoes and earthquakes. Surface changes from outside of the Earth in terms of erosion. Now, wind, water, ice can shape and reshape the land. It has a majorly impact. If you look here, this is the erosion of water going ahead and waves affecting these pieces of land. Landforms in history, that's basically determined where people have lived. So in Greece, there wasn't a lot of communication back and forth to different groups because there are all these hills between. So they grew up kind of independently as city-states instead of one big nation that was unified. Waterways, 70% of the earth is covered by water. Oceans, seas, rivers, and lakes are all waterways. And river system is a system of the stream and all the tributaries that flow into it. This is the Amazon, by the way. Waterways in history, certainly incredibly important. Most of the earliest civilizations were built around rivers, so they get fresh water, and for travel, drinking, and food. Climate and the sun. Climate is the pattern of weather over a long period of time. Sun has a huge effect on climate as the Earth orbits the sun. North and South poles get little direct sunlight, so they are colder. That's due to the tilt of the Earth's axis. And the equator gets a lot, so it's warmer. Climate zones. So the latitude is the distance from the equator. So latitude, lines of latitude are parallel to it. So right there, right there, right there, and right there. The tropical zone is between the tropics, which are the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And that's where it's pretty much hot and sunny most of the time, well, during daytime, obviously. Then we have up here on the top we have polar zones, and at the bottom we have polar zones too. That's where it doesn't get a whole lot of sunlight all the time, so it's pretty cold all year round. Climate, water, and wind. It does have a major impact on the water has a major impact on the way that the weather patterns happen. It can affect climate overall. There's different things called prevailing winds. Those are winds that always go in the same direction. Like the jet stream across the United States, just about always goes from west to east with some variation. And then there's monsoons that shift in different directions. So that's just depends upon how the water heats up and how it affects the direction that the clouds go. Climate and altitude. The higher the altitude, the cooler the temperature. You can still have, in Africa, there's a mountain almost on the equator, Mount Kilimanjaro, that is still snow-covered because it's so high up. Precipitation is falling moisture such as snow and rain. And mountains can affect precipitation or lack of it. For example, here, if a cloud comes this way and it gets higher, it can't hold as much moisture, so it rains on this side, but it doesn't rain on this side. And so that has a major impact because it can't hold as much water when it gets colder due to the vibration of the molecules. Climate helps determine where people live. This does not look like a good place to live, does it? Natural resources are materials that are found in nature, and different countries have a variety of different resources. Air, water, soil, and sunlight are absolutely essential for just about everything. Minerals are non-living substances beneath the Earth's surface, and they're valuable when they're actually useful. Renewable resources can be replaced. Non-renewable resources cannot be. And fossil fuels are made from dead plants and animals. Those are things like petroleum and natural gas, and those are non-renewable, unless you have a few million years. Natural resources in history. The location of natural resources has helped determine where people live. For example, this is the country of South Africa, and one of the main reasons why lots of people live there of European descent is because there's gold and diamonds there. So people wanted to move there and mine. In terms of legends are stories that are passed down through generations in most cultures. Archaeologists are scientists who study the remains of past human lives, and those are different than anthropologists. Those are scientists who study the origin and development of humans. Now, this guy here, this picture here, is probably the most famous archaeologist in the world. Not a very realistic one, though. Archaeology is the study of the remains of the past human life and cultures. People study artifacts, and basically the reason why they do that is to figure out how people used to live. Scientists can learn a lot by looking at artifacts. Dating archaeological remains. Scientists divided human history by naming them the periods of which they made things out of, or what was the main material they made things out of. So we have Stone Age man, Bronze Age man, and Iron Age man. And if you look there, they're able to date things based on carbon-14 dating and also tree rings. And we are done.